Good day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion, and well, you know, Scott Michaels and I finished up Route 66, and one of the first things that we did when we were passing through to finish it was, you know, I wanted to get any phone numbers again that I could to maybe go visit my friend Shelley Winter's house. Last time we were through here, which was about a month and a half ago, I think. I can't remember. It's been so much has happened since then. But yeah, the house was still here. It was slated for demolition for like 6 months and nothing was going on. So we wanted to swing by her old neighborhood and see if the house is still here or maybe another number that we can call. We're here and we're gonna show you what we see. Sadly, when we pulled up, I was excited driving up the street because I could see the green gate and I was like, all right, it's still here, but it's not. Just like she always said it would be, it was leveled. Gone. That was her home. She was born in St. Louis. Her family moved when she was very young. One of the things a lot of people maybe don't know about her is that when she was young and was living in Brooklyn, her father ran a tailoring business and his shop one night caught on fire and they accused him of arson and threw him in jail. And when he came out, she would always say he was never the same man. He was a broken man. And all she wanted out of her life when she was young was to make him feel like a whole man again. So when she became an actress and moved out to Hollywood, one of the first things she did was she called for them to come out. She wanted her mother, father, and her sister. Rose was her mother, her father was Jonas, and her sister was Blanche, and Blanche was a studying nurse. So Shelley actually moved them out and moved them into her apartment that she had over on Hollywood Boulevard. And when her life was picking up and everything and she thought it was a little too crowded, she moved out and let her parents have that house. But one of the stories that I remember her telling me was that that was one of the best things that ever happened to her, because when she moved her parents into that apartment on Hollywood Boulevard, there were like a lot of famous people that lived there, one of which being like Stan Laurel, Cary Grant, and Cy DeVore was there. And Cy DeVore is a famous suit maker, and Shelley's father would sit and talk to Cy DeVore out in the lobby or like out front of the apartment building, and would become good friends. And then he ended up going and working for Cy DeVore and getting his love back. So when Shelley moved out, she moved out and moved in with Marilyn. Eventually, they got an apartment together until both of them got married. But when Shelley was pregnant and married Vittorio Gassman, she ended up getting this house, the house that used to be here, the one that we saw, that's now gone. She bought it because it was a duplex, and she said that she could move her parents in to live in the upstairs, and they would help her take care of her daughter, and they would be a happy family. And her parents lived there for quite a while. So this was truly her home. This was like a place where she raised her daughter when she wasn't filming, and God, it breaks my heart to see it. Even though I knew this was gonna happen, I didn't know when. And you can see they do have, you know, phone numbers, and I had tried to call every number on here, but I was gonna try and see if there was anything else. I couldn't find the photo, and day late, dollar short, it's gone. You know what else she used to say about this house I forgot to mention in that last video was that she would always call it the house that Johnny Carson bought, because when she bought the house, she didn't necessarily have all the money to pay for it, so she got a mortgage. But she said she was on Johnny Carson so much that if you live locally, they just paid you like a day scale, day rate, which wasn't very much. And she said, but if you live somewhere else and they had to fly you in, they paid you a lot more. So she said, so Johnny started telling them anytime that he wanted me to come on, like if he had somebody cancel, he would tell them, pay her as though she's coming from New York. And I think the difference was like, if you were local, you got like $100 or something, she said, or 200. But if you were flying in, you got like 1,000. So she used to call this the house that Johnny Carson bought her, because she paid for the whole house with all of her appearances on his show. I wonder what happened. I wonder when this went down. I haven't been gone very long. I almost wonder if it was my video. I posted the video of her house in its original state, you know, before demolition, and it was getting 100,000 views every day for a week. And I'm sure somebody saw it and probably said, you know what, before we get someone breaking and entering or something, we should do something about it. I'm sad that, you know, I was telling Scott, I go, even if they're going to demolish it, I hope that they demolish it, like maybe they're doing it while we're here and maybe we can get, I don't know, a brick or something. It's sad. It breaks my heart. Her bedroom window was, her bedroom was actually up against that building next to there. So I remember always, I would walk in straight on in here, make a left all the way down to the end of the hall, and that was her bedroom. Very modest house. If I had to describe it, I would say she bought the house in the 50s and the house was trapped in the 50s. It was almost like you could just tell it was somebody who didn't make it, even though it was her home, they didn't make it their top priority to keep it updated or anything like that. She used it as a home to learn her lines and to share time with her family, and a lot of it just never was ever changed from that. I know it's a silly thing and it's just a building and everything, but it was crazy because the way that I met Shelly, I don't know if I mentioned this, was my grandmother, my grandfather that you guys all follow my videos and you know, when his wife got sick, which was my mama, my grandma, she was the light of our lives. Like Papa is too, but everybody just fawned over Mama. She was just the greatest, and she got leukemia and lasted a little over a year. I went home to her funeral, and actually one of the saddest moments I ever had in my life was when I flew in. It was because they called me and told me that she probably wasn't going to make it and that I need to get there as soon as possible. I booked and changed. I actually already had a flight booked at that time, but it was 3 days later. So I called to change the flight, and apparently right around that time is when she passed. But when I flew in, I did know her brother had passed away about 4 days or 5 days before that. So I flew in, and when I got picked up at the airport, my grandpa, when I finally got to his house, he was still awake, and we hugged and everything. He said, "Do you want to go with me to Junior's funeral tomorrow?" That was Mama's brother. And I said, yeah, and we went, and we were walking in, and somebody said, "Don, where's Shirley?" And he had to tell, like, that was the first time I heard it. He said, "Shirley passed away yesterday." So when I came back from my grandmother's funeral, it was literally the end of the first week that I got a delivery call when I worked at Jerry's Deli to go to this rehab, Beverly Hills Rehabilitation Center, for a woman named Patricia. And when I got to the door, it said Shelley Winners. And when I walked in, I had long hair. They used to make me put in a ponytail, and she said, "Honey, you have the most beautiful hair I've ever seen." And we started talking, and I knew a lot about old Hollywood, and she just liked that. So we became good friends right away. And she always used to tell me, like, look at me as like a second mother. And I'd say, "Yeah, but you were like the age of my grandmother." She'd go, "Yeah, but you make me feel old when you say that." So she really, at a tough time in my life, entered my life at a good point and helped me a lot. And in turn, I tried to help her a lot too. So it's sad that when she got out of the rehabilitation, this is where we brought her so she could have her birthday party and everything, and just to know that her beloved home is gone. She used to always say she knew as soon as she died that they would sell it and it would be bulldozed. But to her credit, it's been 15 years that the house was sold, and it finally now is gone. So rest in peace, Shelley's house. This was the same lawn that I met Shirley Jones, Martin Landau, Robert Blake, Diane Ladd, all of Shelley's friends for her birthday party. Marty Angles, Shirley Jones' husband, showed up with shirts with Shelley's face on them saying happy birthday, and he had the wrong year. He had her like 2 years older. So yeah, a lot of memories here. Every day after work, or I'd say at least 3 or 4 days a week after work, I would come over here and hang out with her for about an hour, and then I would catch a bus home. Looks like they also changed the name of the street since she lived here. She lived on Oakhurst, but the cross street was always Little Santa Monica, and now they call it Civic Center. Well, I guarantee you we will see another high-rise apartment building will go here. When she moved to the neighborhood, she said it was all duplexes, and in fact, I remember her telling me that John Garfield was called out as being a communist and that she stood up for him, and he actually lived in the neighborhood right up here because he had just been through a divorce with his wife and actually owed a lot to Shelley because Shelley called the gossip columnist and vouched for him, saying that that she knew him and he was a good guy and that he wasn't. They were accusing him of being a communist, and he just refused to go in and even acknowledge that accusation. So then they like went full bore wanting to blacklist him and were just trying to ruin his life. Yeah, she said this was all duplex family homes, and now it's just turning into all big high-rise apartments. One of Shelley's most famous appearances on Carson is when she dumped the drink over Oliver Reed's head because she told me he was being a chauvinist, and she said that's why Johnny Carson used to have her on all the time. If guests would cancel or something, he said he always knew that no matter what Shelley had to say, she would have a funny story or something that would make him laugh every time. So she was like a go-to guest. She was on over 100 times.